Today's edition of Mac Voices is supported by MacVoices Magazine, our free Flipboard magazine that brings you some of the best Mac, iPhone, and iPad productivity tips on the web. High in signal, low in noise, just like Mac Voices, MacVoices Magazine includes information on how you can get more out of your Apple technology. Subscribe at macvoices.com/magazine or search for MacVoices Magazine on Flipboard. And by the Mac Voices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter to stay up to date on all the Mac Voices news. Subscribe from our front page or at macvoices.com/newsletter. Welcome to the MacJury on Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, Apple has had its September See You on September 7th event, and we've all had just a few hours as we record this to digest what was announced. And so I thought it would be fun to have a distinguished panel get together and discuss those things. And I can't think of too many more distinguished panels than this one, so I'm really excited here. So as always, first off, we'll go around and find out who's here. Now, first up, and I'm embarrassed, I can't believe how long it's been since Katie Floyd was on the show. It's amazing. Katie,
too long, Chuck.
Way too long. It's so good to have you back.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm Katie Floyd. I'm regularly found on the Mac Power Users podcast on Relay FM. I blog occasionally at katiefloyd.me. And one of the reasons you haven't seen me recently is because as of this week, I'm a new small business owner. So I've been busy doing other things and getting my new legal practice off the ground. So it's been a busy year.
Well, that explains it. I went back and looked. You haven't been here since 2014. I couldn't. Amazing.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So
we won't let it go that long again, I promise.
I'm glad we broke the streak. Next up, Mr. Don McAllister. Don, it's always a pleasure. You never get here often enough either.
Well, yeah, well, thanks for inviting me for tonight. But yeah, well, it's always the time difference that does me over, really, because it's just 11 o'clock at night and it's been a long and busy day. But it's always good to chat with you. So thanks for inviting me. Yeah, I'm Don McAllister. I have an online video tutorial service called Screencasts Online. And that's me.
That's all that needs to be said.
There is one other thing, actually. I'm just starting another podcast. Which is breaking news. I became a vegan about 6 months ago, so I'm doing a little audio podcast just as a bit of a side project called the New Vegan Outlook, which is just like going to be a weekly or bi-weekly audio podcast about being a vegan.
Wow. And you're really serious about this. You've made a complete transition, haven't you?
Yeah, surprisingly, because I was the biggest meat eater ever. But about 6 months ago, I made the switch, and it's been really good. So I just thought I wanted to share some of my experiences with other people who might be sort of going down the same path. Great.
I'll look forward to it. I'm afraid I can't quite follow you on that path yet, but who knows?
Well, you never know. You never know.
You never know. Last but absolutely not least, Mr. Charles Edge. Charles, it's great to see you again as well.
Thanks for having me back, Chuck. So I'm Charles Edge. I have a site called cryptid.com, and I'm now a podcaster at podcast.macadmins.org.
Great. And you also authored, I think, a Take Control book, as I recall?
I think 4 Take Control books now, and I think I'm on book 16 this summer that I'm working on. So Take Control is kind of, I think, one of my favorite of all the publishers I've worked with, but way back in the day, A-Press, O'Reilly, etc. So
you're just a busy guy all around too.
No, I don't do anything. I just run around the neighborhood collecting Pokemon all day. It's great.
I'm glad you brought that up to start, but we'll save that for later. It's good to have you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
So, folks, we're going to do this a little bit different than some shows do. We're going to talk about really the important stuff as opposed to dissecting the whole keynote top to bottom. We're going to hit the high points, tell you what's important, at least why we think it's important, and what we think about it. So, with that, I think the place to start is the iPhone 7, since that seems to be the new hot thing. Who's going to get a new iPhone 7?
Well, it's always a difficult one to ask. I mean, we have to, don't we? It's part of our job. So
Oh, Don, there's no question you're getting a new iPhone 7. Come on.
Yeah, I don't. No, I will do. I'll probably go for the 7 Plus. But I've always had the Plus since the Plus size came out anyway, so that's a no-brainer. But the new camera does look pretty impressive. So yeah, I'll be getting it to experiment with that.
They spent a lot of time talking about that camera, didn't they?
They did indeed, yeah. But it is quite a change. The thing they didn't mention, which surprised me, was the video capabilities. But I don't think I think you'll probably still be able to use the dual camera for video, but just in its basic mode of a wide lens and a telephoto lens. I don't think the shallow depth of field is going to work with video because I think it's all software driven anyway. But even so, still to have a 4K camera with the wide and the telephoto lens built into your phone is incredible, really.
It is. Charles, you're right. This seemed like a very technically oriented keynote or product announcement. Maybe because the stuff there was no other way really to explain some of the features than to do some digging into the guts of the phone. But I was a little surprised at that.
A lot of time spent on image signal processors and talking through depth of field and aperture sensing and how many LEDs and what percentage brighter they were. It seemed to me like they were just, in a way, trying to flaunt how much work they put into re-engineering some of the back end tech debt, as you will. So
yeah, Katie, what struck you about the announcements? Is the camera the big seduction point?
The iPhone camera has always been something that's been nice to have, but it has never been the biggest drawing point for me because although I like having a better camera on my iPhone, the iPhone is my only camera. I'm a single person. I don't have kids. I just don't shoot a lot of photography with the iPhone camera. So it's never been a huge selling point to me. I think once it gets to a point that it's good enough, it's kind of good enough. So I'm always happy to see an improved camera, but I typically don't go out and buy the iPhone for its, revolutionary new camera. I'm a little on the fence, honestly, about whether I will buy this new iPhone. And although I'm up for an upgrade, I need to give a call to my carrier. I might have a little technical issue with my carrier. I'm trying to get on that Apple upgrade program where you can upgrade every couple of years. And I don't need to bore you with the details, but I think I may have some issues with the particular plan that I'm on, with the family plan that I'm on, and being able to jump over to that new system. So I'm looking at my options. I'm going to have to put a call into my carrier, probably visit a store, because I definitely want to keep myself free and available for an upgrade next year, just in case there's something bigger and special coming out with the 10th anniversary iPhone.
There will be, Katie. Yes, I know there will be. So if I can upgrade without it costing me, an arm and a leg, without it being, almost double, which, I'm fearful that it may be, then I'm probably going to do it. But we'll see what it ends up being. Yeah, it's interesting. I thought that was fascinating. At the very end, Phil kind of did a little bit of a hard sell on the idea that you can sign up for this program and be eligible for a new phone right away as soon as it comes out. And of course, and you can get a new phone this year, and you can get a new phone next year, because there will be a new phone next year. Yeah, yes, but that's the first time I think we've heard anything like that from Apple.
Yeah, because you can get it now in the UK as well, and I think there was another country it mentioned as well. But of course, you can. It's a 20-month finance plan, so you don't necessarily have to give up the phone at the end of the 12 months. You can keep it, and then I presume it becomes yours. But if you upgrade, obviously you have to give that camera, the phone back. So in effect, you're never really sort of totally owning the phone. It's sort of like a lease, isn't it, really? And I sort of, because it's in the UK, I sort of carefully considered that, because each year I do actually buy an unlocked phone. And, now that we're getting into, the iPhone 7 Plus with 256 gig of RAM on it, it's a lot of money. So it is looking attractive to go down that route. But, the thing I have is I always have a second phone to use as a demo phone for recording screencasts. And it's always been good to, when the new phone comes out, one phone gets retired and comes the Screencast Online phone. And then, the phone before that then sort of disappears into the family somewhere. So, yeah, it's a good idea, but probably with my particular situation, I'll probably not go with that plan and just buy the next one outright again.
One thing that's interesting with what you just said, So it comes with AppleCare Plus. So if you're buying a new phone every 2 years and you're buying AppleCare Plus, then, that helps to offset it. But they mentioned that it's expanding to the UK and China. So I'm guessing that the one that you're using currently is maybe a different program, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, they didn't have it until this year. Yeah, so we've never really had that particular option. So, but now it is available, so it's worth looking at. But again, the price difference. Someone tweeted me before. It's something like $34 in the US, and it's like £34 here in the UK. So there's quite a big difference in the actual cost. But that's probably due to the bashing the pounds taken with Brexit, etc.
I do think that the new storage options, for me at least, kind of make the 7 almost a necessity. I have an 8-year-old child, and so I take about 8,000 photographs a day. And having a little bit more space might make a little bit of room for, work apps and stuff like that there's no room for with the kid pictures right now. So
I had a bit of a shock because I bought a 128 gig last year, and I thought, well, I've never sort of run out of space, so 128 is fine. And I just looked at my current phone, thinking I probably had 30 or 40 gig left on it. And when I looked, I was down to my last 7. So I'm thinking, perhaps now is the time to go to 256.
Things will fill to accumulate the space that's provided. I always thought, 16 was enough. And then, I'll never go more than 32. And I looked at my 64 phone thinking I'm going to have plenty of space left. I probably don't even need to buy 128. I can scrimp a little bit and buy the 32. And I don't think that's happening.
Yeah. Well, and you start shooting, as Charles, as you said, a lot of photos, but more importantly, if you shoot a lot of 4K video, that sucks up the storage at an unbelievable rate.
Indeed. And also the iCloud photo library as well. I'm sort of all in on that. So although it's optimized storage on the phone, the more memory, it's just going to expand. So you've got more local copies of the photos and videos on your phone as well. So
I'm curious what codecs they use with the 4K, because that could be up to 250 megabytes a second.
Yeah, they're pretty much optimized. I think, I can't remember what the actual, it's not that high, but it is fairly well optimized. And the thing I've discovered as well with iOS 10, because I have a separate 4K DSLR camera and a point and shoot that shoots in 4K. And I've always been careful when I import all my photos and my videos not to import them into the iCloud photo library, because I don't want all these 4K clips sort of taking up all the space, basically. But what I've discovered, so the intention is, well, take those 4K clips, make them into a movie, and then bring the movie into the iCloud photo library. But with iOS 10 and the new features of the moments, if you put all your 4K content in, it will actually use that 4K content to generate the automatic moments. So now I'm actually starting to, if I shoot 4K clips, I'll bring them in from not just the iPhone, but also from my DSLR or from my point and shoot as well. So they've got all the clips for that particular event, and it magically goes away and makes a little movie or a little slideshow, including the videos, which is really neat. So they've got you there as well.
Since you mentioned iOS 10, are you going to be sending me really big emoji or, maybe effects? Or are you going to buy some apps in the App Store to put a party hat behind my head?
Yeah. Don't know about that. Well, the big emoji happens automatically anyway. If you just put a single emoji on the line, it'll blow it up. But yeah, I'm not into the stickers and things. I don't know. I'm not really. I've been using the beta, and there have been some stickers, but obviously no vendors have actually been selling the stickers as of yet. But I think that's probably going to be a really big thing, with the kids and whatever.
Yeah, I think we're the wrong generation for that.
Speak for yourself.
I was going to say, Charles.
Well, if we are, Charles has one in the house that is definitely the right generation for it.
I keep having friends from work send me their heartbeat in meetings, and I'm like, I'm looking at them and they're sending me their heartbeat, and I'm like, that's kind of creepy, guys. I don't really want your heartbeat.
Somebody's trying to tell you something, Charles.
I don't know.
I'm not sure you want to hear it if they're trying to tell you something. The big elephant in the room, though, I think that we haven't touched on, the other big thing is the lack or loss of the headphone jack. And I felt like they might have been just a touch defensive on that when Phil said, courage is the reason to do it. I felt like that was probably the only low point of the keynote for me.
That didn't fall right for me either.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you made this decision. There are a lot of technical reasons to do it, a lot of, frankly, common sense reasons, because anyone that knows me knows that I'm a huge Bluetooth earpiece user, but that leaves one ear free. But, that this strikes me as something that is just, it's time, and it's very reasonable to do. But I saw a lot of kickback on Twitter. How do you guys feel?
I think courage may be something that they're saying internally at Apple and may just not be reading how well that plays externally, because I can see that being something you say inside an organization, saying, oh, well, we're so brave, we have so much courage for doing this when nobody else is doing it. But the reason that they're doing it is they're doing it to help with waterproofing. They're doing it to make more space for that haptic engine at the bottom. They're doing it so that they can sell more expensive Bluetooth accessories. There's a lot of reasons that they're doing it. And one of those reasons is because the analog jack has had a good run, and maybe it's time, but I don't think that is the compelling reason is not because the analog headphone jack is however many years old. All of those other reasons are reasons why they're doing it. It's not courage. I mean, this isn't taking those other factors. If it weren't for those other factors, there's no reason they had to do this now. They did it because they wanted to make it waterproof. They did it because they wanted more room in the phone for other things. Not because they were so courageous in making a bold move.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it there, Katie. Actually, that's a really great way to frame it. I think it did take courage, but as you say, internal courage. And there are very few companies, I think, that would have been brave enough to actually do what they've done. But I think it's slightly backfired on them because people are seeing it, not in that way. They're not really understanding the meaning of what he was saying. But I think Katie nailed it on that one. It's definitely an internal courageous decision, but on the outside, it doesn't look like that at all, I suppose.
Yeah, I was ambivalent about the whole thing. To be honest with you, I don't care.
Well, that too is a perspective on it, and I feel like there should be a lot of people that have that attitude because they're going to put a Lightning to audio jack adapter in the box. So,
as a USB-C MacBook owner, I have enough adapters. I don't want to.
But you also have a headphone jack.
Yeah, for now.
I think the thing is, though, that they didn't need to say what they said. I think they probably would have got away with it with a lot less flack if they'd have just said the reasons why they took it were all the reasons that Katie went through, and also the speakers as well, because they've got 2 speakers or 2 speaker ports in there now. So space is at a premium. And I think they might have sort of adversely affected the reception that they would have got. I think they would have got away with it much more easily if they hadn't have sort of made that statement.
For me, I'll take a better speaker and a second speaker in a logical position for a landscape video watching or whatever every day over a headphone jack, because I'll use that a lot more. And if I really have to plug in something that needs a headphone jack, I've got the dongle. So
I think it was a good. Yeah, it was a good move that they've included the adapter in the box as well. Had you had to pay for that separately, I think that would have been a completely different ball game, and people really would have freaked out. But you get the adapter, the what are they called? AirPods, the new, the AirPods things. They look really, really smart, and it sounds as though, obviously we've got to see them in practice, but it sounds as though they've actually done all the right things. You don't have to pair them. It's all automatic. You can switch between devices seamlessly. There's a great little way of charging them, battery inside the case that will charge them while they're in the case. They sound to, it seems like they've done a really good job on those new earbuds. So I'm looking forward to trying them out. And again, I'm not that upset that it's progress, isn't it? The traditional jack's gone, so let's just move on and move forward.
Well, I think we might hear a little more kickback about the loss of the headphone jack in a month, and maybe more so around Christmas time. And the reason I say that is because, number one, we all have had 3 or 4 months to get used to this. It's been in the rumor mill. It was probably a pretty well sourced leak that Apple put out that this was going to happen. The tech press and the techies who follow Apple, we've had months to get used to this. What's going to happen when your everyday tech consumer who doesn't follow these things, they just get an iPhone every year for Christmas, or they get an iPhone every time that their upgrade cycle is up, realizes that their headphones that they bought or their $300 Bose noise-canceling headphones that they use on the airplane, aren't going to work. That adapter in the box is going to help. But, I was talking to my mom about this recently, and she walks in the park, 3 days a week. And I said, one of the rumors about the new iPhone that's coming out is that it's not going to have a headphone jack anymore. And the first thing she said is, how am I going to walk in the park now? Because that's one of the things she does is she walks with her headphones in the park. And I said, well, there's going to be these new headphones. They're going to have lightning adapters, and you can use those, and those will be in the box. Well, but what about my other pair of headphones? I mean, it was just all of these, what ifs and how is this going to work? And, we were talking about these workarounds, and, she kind of came around to the idea, but it was a sell. She was not real happy about it.
One thing I'm not going to miss, I run maybe 5 to 10 kilometers a day, and I'm not going to miss having to replace my earbuds once every 3 months because my sweat deteriorates the cable, the cord. So, that itty bitty thing, that had not actually occurred to me at all until you mentioned, how am I going to walk in the park? And I'm like, well, how am I going to run? But, if I suddenly don't have to replace my earbuds every 3 months, then, that's kind of a bonus.
Well, let's make sure we make note of what Katie just said. First of all, there are new AirPods, Lightning AirPods, in the box. So, right out of the box, you're going to be able to have the experience. The dongle is in there. So if you have an absolute favorite set of headphones that you just can't live without, you're going to be able to connect them. And
so right off the bat, you've got two pairs of headphones that are going to work with this iPhone out of the box.
Exactly. And really, any set of headphones that you have will work right out of the box with the dongle. I get it. But also, from what I was seeing online, if you need more dongles to outfit all of your sexy headphones, they're only $9 each. So that's not a huge premium if you really are stuck in the past or stuck on something that you love. I mean, I don't think that's bad. And hey, a little piece of duct tape, and that'll hold it on there. I know that's not a terribly elegant solution, and as an Apple user, it offends me. But practically, it could work very, very easily and very nicely.
Duct tape makes everything better. It's all good.
But going back to the gift situation, I mean, if someone, if you have an iPhone 7 and someone buys you a pair of headphones for Christmas, you can still use them. You don't have to go and buy an additional adapter. You've got an adapter in the box. So if you haven't used it, you might have to go and find it. But at least you've got it there, so you don't have to buy anything extra. And there shouldn't be any awkward situations where someone's bought someone some headphones that they can't use. And also people say, well, what about other things that rely on the headphone jack, such as like the Square reader? And again, on Twitter, I saw someone had confirmed that the Square credit card reader will actually work with the dongle as well. So if you've got extra bits and pieces that you've been using to plug into the analog audio port, you'll still be able to do that with the adapter.
Yeah, I just thought about that because I got one of those credit card dongles from my credit card processing company this week, and I looked at it and I went, oh, this isn't going to work for long.
Well, the one thing that came up from somebody I was talking to, that you can't charge and listen to your iPhone at the same time with earphones. But that's going to, so there's sooner or later there will be an adapter that will come out, whether it's Apple's adapter or a third party, where you're going to be able to do both. I know that's another dongle, and that's the only real downside I see to this solution at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I've been using Bluetooth. I mean, I don't run each day, but I do go for a long walk every day, so that's my exercise. But I wear just Bluetooth headphones as I'm out walking. They've got limited battery life, but basically as soon as I take them off when I come back, and I just have a USB-C cable coming out. Sorry, not USB-C, a micro USB cable. I have a power adapter in the kitchen, which has got USB ports in, and I just leave a cable permanently connected in there. And as soon as I take them off, I just plug them in, and they just charge up in a couple of hours. And then the next time I'm off for a walk, I just take them off and they're fully charged. So I think it's just it's a slight inconvenience to have to recharge them. But again, I think they've done a clever move by having this, the case that's got the battery in. So you don't even have to worry about plugging it in. It gives you 24 hours worth of charging just in the case from the battery itself.
So since you mentioned going for a walk, do you think with the WatchOS updates that you'll be able to actually go for a walk without your phone and just take your watch?
Yeah, you could do. I mean, you can do that now. It's just that the current watch hasn't got the GPS on if you want to track where you're going. I mean, to be honest, all I track is just to make sure the activity rings work. So that would probably work for me now as it was. I could do the problem I've got now is with the Bluetooth headphones. It's a bit of a faff to switch between the phone and the watch. Perhaps with the new ones being so seamless, it will be a lot easier to switch between them. So you could actually quite easily just go off without your phone in the future. It's going to be easier, I think, than it is at the moment.
So since we switched a little bit over to the watch, I cannot imagine, and I don't know if this is a male-female difference, I cannot imagine even walking in my own neighborhood and not taking my phone with me, just from a safety perspective and being an in-touch perspective. I mean, maybe if I was just doing the individual loop right here around my neighborhood, but I don't know. I just can't imagine not going out and not taking my phone with me for whatever reason. So having the GPS and having that ability is certainly nice, but that was not at all a selling point for the watch for me because, I've always got it if I've got my phone paired.
That might be a male-female thing because you're maybe the third female who's brought that up, and I've never heard a male bring that up. So.
Yeah, the only time I might want to take my phone with me is if I perhaps want to take some photos of stuff as I'm going around, like, when the sun's going down and just take a few snaps. But not really to keep in touch. And I very rarely check, as I'm walking, very rarely check my email or anything like that. So yeah, I could probably get away without taking the phone.
Before we get over to the watch, a couple of things I want to make sure we touch on. First, let's not forget on the new iPhone that, according to Phil, we have somewhere real-world use of between an hour and 2 hours extra, depending on whether you talk about the 7 or the 7S and how you're using it. So we have more battery life. I don't know if that's a result of dropping the headphone jack or not. If it is, fine. That's a welcome trade-off for me. But I also, since we're spending so much time on the AirPods and AirPods, gotta get that right. How about the new Beats headphones? The wireless options there. And anybody interested in that? Anybody skeptical? Because up to this point, most of us that were not just strictly into fashion kind of look down our noses at Beats. Wow.
Yeah, I'm not really. I have my Bose for traveling, which are fine, and then I have either just standard Apple earbuds or the Bluetooth. The Bluebird X, I think, which when I'm out, when I want to go Bluetooth, but no real need for. Oh, and these ones while I'm in the studio, of course, but they're just wired headphones. But no, the whole Beats thing doesn't do anything for me. But again, that might be a generational thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I just bought a pair of I think the Jaybird X2s, or when they were on sale recently, they were an Amazon deal of the day, kind of leading up to Prime Day. And I just bought those. Those are kind of my gym Bluetooth headphones. And then I have a fairly inexpensive on-ear pair that are kind of my desk Bluetooth headphones. But I'm not a huge audiophile, so the sound difference between the headphones don't make that much of a difference to me. For me, the big factor is I don't want to pay a ton for Bluetooth headphones, and I know the Beats tend to be more expensive. And do they sound reasonably well, and what's the cost?
I hope that the noise-canceling headphones come with everything soon, because the stereo speakers on the new phone might cause people to be even more likely to actually play music on the airplane with their phone, which I've noticed has just been an increasing trend that just destroys me. It's
antisocial.
I like people to be antisocial. I don't want them to share their music with me if I don't want to be listening to their music, that's almost a negative new feature on the phone. Like the stereo built-in, speakers, great. Dig it, except for it would be great if they would just not work on airplanes and stuff like that.
I see that all the time now. I don't know if that's generational or if it's just becoming a more accepted practice, but in doctors' offices and waiting rooms and restaurants, people are just watching YouTube, watching videos, watching Netflix right on their phone or tablet. No headphones, no nothing, just to be oblivious to people in the rest of the world. But
no, I haven't run into that. That's
not come over this side of the pond either.
I see it a lot.
wow.
It'll get there.
I'm not looking forward to it. But, jeez.
So if you're watching, don't do that. It's rude.
Right, it's totally rude. I'm not the only one that thinks that. See?
No, I did see it once in an airport terminal, but that was in the States, and I was I couldn't believe what I was seeing or hearing, actually, because they were just incredible. Yeah. Okay, hopefully it's not going to happen too much in future.
Yeah, I mean, Charles, your point is well taken, especially if these are better speakers. I mean, up to this point, the speakers have been okay, but it reminded me a lot of a 63 Volkswagen AM radio. You know, you can turn it up loud, but you don't get any fidelity. I'm most anxious to see just how good a job they've been able to do with this, because of how good a job they've done with the iPad Pros, both the regular and the large one. I mean, the sound field in those is kind of amazing. You know, so we will see.
Another thing I'm interested in is something that just went by real quick. LTE up to 140 or 450 megabits a second. So we were talking about snapping that 4K video. Like, you could theoretically stream 4K video over LTE. Like, your carrier might block you later for having done so, but that's kind of an interesting concept to me.
As long as you pay for the bandwidth, they don't care.
Yeah. Simple. So, anything else? Oh, how could I forget? Oh, we have a jet black iPhone now. Is that important? I mean, we had this incredibly sexy video from Johnny Ive.
Yeah.
That somebody on Twitter said it well, that these Johnny Ive videos are like a work of art in themselves.
Oh yeah.
But what if you're going to get one, or if you're thinking about one, will you be looking at the jet black or going with one of the others?
The thing with the video, you managed to get aluminium in the first few seconds of the video. Sorry, Casey.
When I was taking notes on the the whole thing, my quote was a video that left no dry eyes in the audience.
Katie?
One of the things that has come out recently, and I don't know if you've had a chance to see that, is there's a small footnote at the bottom of Apple's website that says if you get that particular model, that it is prone to, I'm trying to think of the particular wording, but basically scuffs and nicks. And if that's going to bother you, then you may want to consider a case for your jet black iPhone. I think it probably has to do something with the casing on it. So I was very seriously looking at that. I am typically a white and aluminum iPhone person because I like the lighter display. But then when I saw that, I was like, well, if I'm gonna end up having to put a case on the back of it anyway, then nobody's gonna know. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was my same. It looks as though it will either get full of fingerprints or scuff. And I'm going to put my phone in the case anyway. So, I'll probably just go with the standard, the new color, the black, just the black.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I mean, the black, the jet black looks really jet black, no question about it. But I'm not quite sure why they would create something like that, go to all the trouble that they obviously did by creating this process, and then say, oh, it may be susceptible to nicks and scratches. I mean, okay, if you're going to put it in the Louvre, that's fine. But if you're going to put it in my pocket, I want it to be a little more durable. So
it's also interesting that they've not got the 32 gig option on just that color for some reason. So whether or not they're trying to position that one as the high end of the range with having
premium.
Yeah. So like the piano black finish. It's very strange. Also, as well, talking about cases, I'm presuming that with having the two speakers now, we're probably going to have some new cases for the iPhone 7, which is a bit of a pain because they're not cheap either, are they? Or because I'm not sure if the original cases will fit. It's just that it might sort of block one of the speakers. That's the only problem.
Well, and you're probably going to have new cases for the camera opening too.
Well, definitely for the
point,
Plus,
yeah.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't seen any reports of if the 7 will fit the cases. My guess is they probably changed it just enough that it won't.
Mm.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe you can get a Super Mario case.
All right, so let's go there for a second. I was going to. That was farther down my list, but everyone knows I'm not a gamer. Is it any gamers here? I mean, was this just a big deal that I just completely missed?
You know, I do play the occasional game, and by occasional I mean like about 50% of my life. But you know, I mean, Super Mario Brothers on the NES, in my opinion, changed gaming forever. And it was linear, and you ran, and it looked a lot like the game that we saw demoed today. And to have the creator of Mario and a number, and really the innovator of Nintendo, like they were making games for other people, they were doing a lot of other things, and all of a sudden they introduced the NES and all these other things. To me, it's more of a shift. You have a Cold War spinning down between console makers. And so now you have all these Nintendo titles, whether it's Pokemon or Super Mario Brothers, and I would assume, or Mario, and I would assume at some point Zelda coming to iOS. Nintendo released Mitomo, and they own quite a number of properties in terms of game titles. So to me, it's more of a, hey, we're bringing all these titles that you guys grew up with and loved to this platform, if that makes sense. It's not as much about Mario specifically, in my mind at least, and that could be different for other people, as it is like, hey, you now have at least 4 titles from Nintendo for iOS, and they're all performing pretty well. So, you know, here's another.
That's good. Katie, Don, are gamers, any opinions on this?
Not really. I mean, it was significant, and the only way I could tell it was significant because I personally didn't, you know, I'm not sort of clued into that side of it. But my Twitter feed went into meltdown. People were just OMG, OMG, OMG. You know, so it obviously was a big deal, but it just personally wasn't a big deal for me. So you know, but lots of people are very, very pleased about it.
In my office, where I'm one of the elder statesmen, I suppose, there was a standing ovation almost over Pokemon coming to the Apple Watch. I think that was the big deal at my office. Like everything else, everyone was like shaking their heads, nodding, you know. But then they mentioned Pokemon Go on the Apple Watch, and it was like, "Whoa!" It was quite. I looked around, and I was like, "Wow, I guess that's a thing." So.
Mm.
I do not understand Pokemon.
You mean you don't understand the appeal, or you don't understand Pokemon?
All of the above.
No, you got to hand it to Apple in that they are moving with the times, aren't they? I mean, obviously these are big cultural things now, and also with messages. We mentioned before about the emoji and messages. Not so much this time around, but in WWDC in that keynote, they spent such a long time on messages and how much of a big deal it was. And I was surprised they didn't do as much this time round. But you know, the whole messaging thing, it's such a big driver for people. You know, how they use their phones these days. That gaming and messaging is very much on the top of their sort of priority list, I think, at the minute.
I can't get my babysitter to call me back. She will only message me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a thing.
Yeah.
There you go. I tried to look at the Pokemon thing and thought, okay, there's so many people that have said this is our first step into augmented reality, widespread dispersion of an augmented reality situation. And I kept thinking, okay, is Apple trying to play that angle, or are they just trying to play the pop culture thing, and everybody will want an Apple Watch so they can hunt Pokemons easier? I don't know. I throw that out there as a small possibility. I'm not sure how I feel about it. So be that as it may.
Yeah, I think they've just caught the zeitgeist of the times. You know, people are really into it. I don't think it's that much of a virtual reality play. I think it's just purely the pop culture side of things, and it's just so popular.
From a gaming perspective, I'll say that the only good thing about augmented reality is you can't cheat.
Well, that's an interesting perspective.
You don't see people running away with, and I'm also a software developer, so I can write a bot to play a game for me if I so choose. But you don't see that happening with Pokemon because it is so deeply embedded with the GPS and things like that.
Interesting. So you cheat a lot at video games, Charles?
Pretty, yeah. That's why you play, right?
Okay.
To game the system.
Uh-huh.
It's part of the game.
Aha. We have a sociopath in our midst.
Wow.
All right. So before we go any farther on that, let's get back to the watch, because the watch, we've all been waiting for. Now we know that the proper term is the Apple Watch Series 2.
I like that. I thought that's elegant.
I agree, Katie. It doesn't feel like they're dismissing the Apple Watch 1. It's just, okay, that's Series 1. This is Series 2. Series 1 will stick around, but it's gotten better. So I don't know if that makes the original Apple Watch Series 0 or not, but anyway. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting, very, very classy kind of naming scheme.
I thought it was really classy that they did upgrade the older watch. So I suppose we've got the original Apple Watch Series 1 and Apple Watch Series 2. And to actually sort of increase the processor speed, I think is a really neat move. They could have just left the original Apple Watch as in its current form, but I think everyone is conscious of the fact that it's slightly underpowered, or horrendously underpowered, depending on your viewpoint. So to give that a speed bump as well, I think it's a very, very sensible move. But I noticed as well that they didn't. That they've only kept the sports versions. The stainless steel version has gone, I think. So you can't get a Series 1 stainless steel. You have to go to Series 2 for the stainless steel.
Which makes
sense. Do you guys own
sense.
Apple Watches Series 1?
Yes.
Pardon?
Well,
yeah.
original, not Series 1.
Mm-hmm.
Original. Right. So was there anything in the announcement that makes you say, oh, I'll go buy another one?
These two are buying other ones, I promise you.
Thank you, Katie.
I was thinking about that on my drive home to sit and record this. I was like, am I actually going to buy? I mean, I'll definitely buy an iPhone 7 because how do I not? But am I actually going to buy another Apple Watch?
Well, the interesting thing is, I mean, the iPhone 7 again, it's pretty much a no-brainer because they do upgrade them so much, and there's so much new functionality and the faster and etc. We all know about that. So it's pretty much a given each year that I will actually upgrade the iPhone. Had I not needed to upgrade the Apple Watch this time round, just to keep current and to understand what it does, etc. I actually looked on the website. I thought, well, I've got the stainless steel. How much would it cost me to upgrade to the stainless steel Series 2? And it was £600. And I went, whoa, that's a ton of money for a watch. And
the resale value on your stainless steel has plummeted because they've kept the old one around and upgraded the processor.
Yeah. So it looks as though the new Series 2 is great if you're really into sports, because it's really aimed at the sports people, I think, and fitness, etc. So you've got the GPS, you've got the waterproofing, you've got the increase in processor speed. But to be honest, I probably wouldn't make a ton of use out of those. So I would probably, if I was a normal person, not sort of involved in the space and doing podcasts, etc., I probably would skip actually upgrading the watch. And there's not that much in it that would make me go out and spend another £600 to get a new watch. Because even though watchOS 3 has got the improvements in, because I've been using the beta for a while, so I know what improvements they have made, and they have made some good, significant improvements. But I still find I'm not really using applications on the watch still. I'm still just using the activity app. I'm using it for notifications. I'm using it as a watch. So whilst this is great, I probably would skip until Series 3, to be honest, if I was, just a normal Apple Watch user.
I do feel like after the initial joy of having a new thing with new things on it, it's like when you revert back to a lot of your previous habits. For example, my Nest. I will walk up to the Nest, or I will tell Alexa to increase or decrease the temperature in my home, rather than use the Nest app on the Apple Watch because it takes so long. So I'd be very curious to see if someone had a new one and fired up the Nest app, and if it was almost instantaneous, and that's just one example of maybe 50 apps or solutions that I might use on my watch. But I'd be very curious to see how that speed performance, or if it's more of a bandwidth situation, because in order for me to turn the temperature up in my home, I have to wait about 10 seconds just looking at a little spinning thingy. And I don't enjoy that, I'd rather just yell out, "Alexa, turn up the air," So.
Sorry, I couldn't find a device. Or AirPods.
Yeah, and not only that, Charles, but you've triggered everyone else's Alexa everywhere. So
I did yell from outside my house one day for her to unlock the door just to see if it would work, and it did. I was like, I might need to rethink that.
So where do you live again? Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
No.
So one of the things that I thought was interesting about the watch is I'm trying to think from a different perspective, not from a consumer perspective, but from an Apple perspective. Why did they upgrade the processor in the Series 1? Because WatchOS 3 was supposed to fix all of those situations. And I know some of you may be on the WatchOS 3 beta, and by all accounts, it's good. It's like having a whole different watch. It's very good. So why did Apple feel the need, especially with Tim Cook, who is all about taking the old model and bringing it down and keeping the profit margins as high as possible? They did this with the Apple Watch. They upgraded the processor, and they did it also with the iPhone 6s. They upgraded the memory from the base 16 to the 32 gig model on the processors. So now we're seeing Apple start to give their older model products, although they're recycling them down, they're just not reselling them. They're starting to upgrade them again. So why did they do that? Is it because they want to be nice to their consumers? They feel like the Apple Watch needs this additional kick? I don't know. I was trying to, from a consumer perspective, yeah, that's great. I get a cheaper watch and a faster watch than what was released last year. But I don't know why Apple did it.
I would submit, Katie, that it's one less chip that they have to purchase and keep track of.
Could be.
That, okay, that chip is gone. We don't have to worry about it. If the competitors use it, fine. But in fact, come to think of it, does Apple make that chip?
I think it's Apple's chip.
So yeah, that's one less chip we have to produce. We can produce this other chip, and that way we have as many as we need for the Series 2 or the Series 1. That would be my argument. And if it doesn't cost them any more money, in fact, it might help from an economies of scale standpoint.
It might also be down with third-party apps as well, because Apple have got complete control over their apps, and they can optimize them for the hardware. But perhaps the extra speed just helps out when people are using Xcode to actually create third-party apps. I don't know. Not really seeing that many third-party apps that have been optimized for WatchOS 3 yet. So it might just give third-party apps a bit of a lift, increase in speed as well.
Charles, to answer your question, that there was one thing that Phil said that absolutely convinced me that I want to go with this watch. And it may not be that you're going to be right out of the gate get to take advantage of it. But they were showing Night Sky app, and he was talking about the 60 frames per second on your wrist. And that just blew me away. He said, that's a lot of power to have on your wrist. And I thought, okay, if you've got that now with Night Sky, what else could you do with that power on your wrist? So is this going to maybe encourage developers to take that next step and do more powerful, more interesting things that before they felt like they were hobbled by the, as Don said, the underpowering of the original Apple Watch?
I guess time will tell. I can say I use almost no apps on my watch. Like Don said, it's like, how are the rings on the health monitor? And then it syncs with my calendar, so I know what meeting room I need to be in. Those are kind of where I've fallen into having it included in my everyday life. Sometimes I'll use it to control music. I guess I use it to take photos, and I'll set the camera up and do a selfie with the kid or something like that. But it's like, what do you actually use these pieces of technology for in day-to-day life? And I can think of lots of great third-party app uses, but the latency with how long it takes, and I don't know if that's to render the data on the device or if that's to sync the data back to my iPhone, So I guess that's probably the piece I'm most curious about.
I think Apple have got quite a big job ahead of them, re-educating not just the sort of re-educating the existing Apple Watch users to start using apps again, to actually get them to try, because we've had it for, over a year now. And I think the majority of people have just stopped even bothering trying to run the watches, run the applications on the watch. But I think they also have to get the developers back on board as well, because I know a lot of developers spent an awful lot of time and effort and money, developing the Apple Watch apps and the complications, etc. And I don't think they really saw a return in their investment. So I think a lot of developers have sort of cooled on the idea of actually developing for the watch. But now they've got this watchOS 3, they've got a faster platform. They really need to find some way to encourage developers to start developing for the watch again, and the existing watch users to find some way to persuade them to give it another try, give them another chance and see whether or not they find it useful this time around.
And make a car that comes when you say, "Hey kid, come here."
I agree with you, Don. I think, though, that unfortunately a lot of us got soured on Apple Watch apps because there were so many developers out there that said, oh, we have an Apple Watch app. And it really didn't do anything. It didn't add to the experience. There are a couple out there that do, or that provided some genuine functionality. But I think there was a bit of a desire to, we want to be on the watch, but we don't quite know what to do with it. And that's where I'm wondering if we're into watchOS 3 and we have what appears to be, we haven't seen it yet, a faster, more capable device.
Yeah, see, I'm of the opinion really that Apple misstepped with the watch, and they should never have opened up the watch, the initial version of the watch, to third-party app developers. I think they should have just put their own apps on, put the notifications on, got everybody used to using the watch, and sort of be really looking forward to third-party apps. And then, when Watch Series 2 came out, which was only 12 months later, they've got all the APIs in place, they've got a platform, they've got the extra power of the processor. Now would have been a good time to actually said, right, here you go, developers, here's the new Apple Watch, start developing your apps for it. So I think they've sort of missed a trick there, and this is why they need to do this re-education and realignment and get everyone back on board with the watch. They probably shouldn't have opened it to third-party developers when they did.
How about the waterproof capabilities of this? Now it's swim-proof, I think was the phrase they used. And it feels like the Apple Watch now can address some of those issues that before, because I know Adam Angst was highly critical of the Apple Watch as a dedicated runner. And now someone I saw on Twitter was commenting that 150 feet down, I guess, is the equivalent pressure, that it now is a legitimate dive watch. So and of course, let's not forget the Nike Apple Watch Plus or Apple Watch Nike Plus. So it feels like they're trying to broaden things out a little bit, or at least broaden the appeal of the Apple Watch into areas that it had drawn a lot of fire for.
So I swim and surf. I probably shouldn't even say this. I'm just going to disclaim that this is me and this is how I do things. But I swim and surf wearing my Apple Watch all the time. But when I said that at work today, 3 people were like, "Oh my God, how dare you?" And I'm like, "Well, it hasn't broken yet, and I got it the first day that it was available." So, so I don't know how much of a value add that is for me specifically. But do you guys take it off when you go near water, or?
Yeah, I don't swim or surf at all, so I've never. But I have washed it in the sink once when I got petrol over it, which is that's the only time it's ever introduced to water. Now I was just filling the car up with some petrol, and it kicked back, went over my arm. Well, went all over my arm and all over the watch. So I went to the service station bathroom. I just took it off and I just literally rinsed it under the tap, and it was great. It was fine. So, but that's the only exposure to water that this has had. So,
Katie, any of this mean anything to you? The way you wear a watch or use a watch?
I think it's nice, but I think the Apple Watch already was certainly to some degree water resistant. I think we knew that. Tim Cook mentioned that he showered with it daily, and other people have certainly mentioned that they swim with it. Is it a selling feature that will cause me to go out and buy a new watch? No. Is it a feature that I think, that'll be nice to know when I buy the new watch? Yeah, it's nice, but it's not something that in and of itself would cause me to go out and buy a new watch. I don't swim with it. I would take it off before I go to the beach or the lake, but it's also nice because even with my current watch, I don't worry about, dunking it. I too have, rinsed it out when I've got something on it. I typically wear it when I'm washing dishes, and I haven't had any problem with that type of thing. So I think it's nice, but not a particularly big selling point for me. But I can see where it certainly would be for some people.
They do seem to be repositioning it as a sports/activity device rather than just, I think when it first came out, it was just a wearable for everybody. Whereas now they're definitely taking the tack that, it's for activity, it's for sport, it's for fitness, etc. Because I think at the moment, that's what most of us use it for, really. That's at least that's the principal thing that I use it for. So they're sort of driving it down that track. What was interesting is that, and I'm glad as well, is that they haven't completely redesigned the form factor. So all your straps will still work. And of course, we've lost the Edition, but I don't know anyone who's got an Edition anyway, and they've replaced it with the ceramic. But at least it's the same design. So, all our accessories will work with it, which is a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it's still just as thick, and it still has the same basic battery life. I think those are probably two things that would have been bigger selling points, is if it was thinner and it had better battery life, and we didn't see either of those come. Maybe it'll be Series 3 before we get there.
The better battery life would have been the single thing that would have made me upgrade, for sure.
It's the ceramic thing, that was interesting to me because I'm not a watch aficionado. But it seemed to be a big deal. I saw Dave Hamilton tweet that he does have a ceramic watch, and he said it looks as good as the day he bought it years and years and years ago. So I guess that might be the replacement for the stainless steel.
Yeah, it's quite expensive. It's about £1,200 over here in the UK. So I never even knew ceramic watches were a thing, to be honest. So it's it's not the replacement for the stainless steel. Both it and is it Hermes or
Hermes.
I guess Hermes is the spaceship from the Mars movie, but it's the stainless steel and the ceramic are both about the same price point, and they're definitely. I'm sorry, the ceramic and the Hermes are both about the same price point, and they're definitely a step up from the stainless steel.
High end, yeah, definitely.
I kind of like the Hermes, but not enough to justify one.
Well, I'm curious, Don. Why did you go with the stainless steel when? Because I know you think like I do. You knew that this day was coming, that in a year or less, you were going to be looking at a new model.
Yeah, to be honest, because it was the first watch, I just liked the shininess of the metal. I didn't really like the brushed aluminium look. I preferred the stainless steel shiny look, but also the glass is much tougher than the sports as well. And I actually tweeted before that I was thinking, rather than spending another £600 for the stainless steel, I might look at the sports one. And Adam Christensen tweeted me back, said, "Don't do it because his is all scuffed because of the glass on the on the actual watch." So whereas this one is perfect. It's as good as the day I bought it. Really, it's there's not a mark on it. So they are a lot more robust. But I just prefer the look of the stainless steel to the brushed aluminium.
I've also got the stainless steel, and honestly, if I had to buy another one tomorrow, I would buy the stainless steel yet again. And the main reason I bought it is, I'm an attorney by day, and I just felt that it was a little dressier. I thought that wearing the sports watch, I felt a little uncomfortable wearing the sports watch with a suit or to court or to a little more formal functions. And I felt that the stainless steel, especially if you dress it up with a leather, or I've got the Milanese loop band, was a little more court appropriate or business appropriate for those types of functions. And again, that may be a male-female thing. I think guys can kind of get away a little bit more with a sports watch perhaps than a woman can. But I've been very happy with the stainless steel. I, Don, do have a few small scuffs in the stainless steel. Now, I've been told that they will buff out pretty easily, but I haven't actually, they've been so small and so minor that I haven't actually taken the time to bother to do it.
Yeah, I must admit, there's probably a few little scuffs on the stainless steel itself, but it's the glass face is
right. The glass is perfect.
It's great. Yeah, it's really good.
Charles, we have two fashion horses here. Did you go for the aluminum, or are you a stainless person?
I got mine for free, so I just took whatever was given to me, and I got the brushed metal, just normal old rickety dickety,
Okay.
I like it. It's fun. It's not scuffed. So it's funny when you said scuffed, I started rubbing it like, is it actually scuffed? But it's not.
Yeah, I've got the aluminum, and I think there might be one little scratch on the glass. It's one of those things where I look at it one angle and I'm convinced it is, and then I look at it a day later and I can't find it. So who knows?
Do you have these apocalypse now moments where you just stare at it for hours like it's a ceiling fan? Or
no,
not
that.
That should be the app I write for the Apple Watch.
Not
the
that far.
Apocalypse Now app.
Yeah. Love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Right.
Well, guys, we're starting to run a little short on time, and I want to make sure that we touch on anything else that was important, that you feel was important. One thing I felt was interesting, and they didn't spend nearly enough time on it for my taste, was the collaborative iWork situation or capabilities now. So I'm very anxious to try that out because with the popularity of Google Docs and all, I'd love to see iWork move into the serious contender stage.
It was a bit weird. The whole first 40 minutes of the keynote just seemed to be really strange to me because it was very sort of disjointed and a bit strange. And the iWork thing, I mean, no one imagined they would have brought iWork out on today's keynote. But again, the only difference seems to be the real-time collaboration. They didn't make any mention of any additional features or any enhancements to the applications. And they did sort of position it as part of the education thing. So sort of like, word processor, spreadsheet and presentation for kids in education, which didn't sort of sit well with me. Don't get me wrong, I'll be glad to see the real-time collaboration. It just seemed a very strange thing to introduce and not mention any other new features, which I would hope that there are some additional features in there as well.
I've been burned before on iWork collaboration when they first introduced it, and I'm over it. Done. Never trying. I mean, never say never, but burn me once and I'm over you. But I think Don's right. I think it was kind of, Chromebooks are popping up everywhere. And, Chromebooks and Google Docs, and a lot of people now aren't using Word and aren't using those types of tools. And I think this is Apple's response to that. I get nervous when Apple does these things because, oh yeah, this is a great idea and this is someone's pet project and this is what we're going to do. And then you hear nothing for a while. And I'm kind of worried that that's what's kind of happening with Notes is it got this big update and now, okay, this is it. This is what you get. We're done. We're never going to touch this again. So we'll see.
I was really excited about that in 2010, and that's one of the very few critical things that I will ever say. I'm pretty careful not to say anything critical for the most part, but it's just 6 years too late, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess I value the Mac iOS ecosystem, and so and it's frustrating, Katie. I'm like you. I did not have good experiences before. And so it needs to be made seamless, or it almost needs to just drop, one of the two. Don't do it halfway. So I'm optimistic that maybe the fact that it was given a spot in this announcement means that it's important to someone and important enough to get that spot. But we'll see. I don't know. Anything else? I mean, Don, you mentioned the first 40 minutes being so disjointed. Anything in there that is really worth hitting?
No, the only thing that we didn't cover on the iPhone side of things was the changes to the home button, which I thought was quite interesting. They've now got this new taptic engine, which again, I'm hearing conflicting reports as to how well it works. And of course, there's no moving parts in there now. So I think one of the big problems with the iPhone, as far as the repairability is that, the home button does tend to go AWOL on certain people's, but there's no moving parts now. So it's all taptic engine. Had one report saying that it was a bit of a weird experience because the whole bottom part of the phone kicks. It's not like as nice as the touchpad. And then 5 minutes later, another report saying it was the best thing since the trackpad. So until we actually get one and try it, I'm not really sure how it's going to pan out. But it sounds quite an interesting development, though.
Yeah. Katie, anything else that jumped out at you as important or worthy of discussion?
What I really wanted to see is what we didn't see in this particular announcement. So I think I'm interested to see what's next from Apple. Are we going to have a separate Mac announcement? We saw very little of macOS Sierra. We saw very little of iOS 10, although we did get the release date, and Apple did announce on their website that Sierra is coming later. So maybe we aren't going to see anything. Where are the Macs? I think it was pretty clear early on, as Don said, the first 40 minutes were kind of weird, but I think it was pretty clear early on, based on the pacing, based on the number of third-party demos that they had, that we weren't going to see any Macs. And I know that the rumor mills were heading that way, but I was still holding out hope. So are we going to get an October event? Are we going to get one more town hall event? Are we going to get press briefings, or are they just going to show up on the Apple website one day? So we'll see. I just wanted to make a mention there. Where is my MacBook Pro? Please.
Charles, how about you?
Yeah, I'm totally with Katie here. The lack of, I think not only of having any new Mac models, but specifically not dropping the release date, because it's coming a week after iOS 10 drops on the 20th. So like that itty bitty detail would have taken about 2 seconds to say there at the end of the thing, and you had to actually go to the Sierra page to see it. So to me, that was a pretty substantial, like, wait, what about OS 10 period? The only mention of a Mac was to mention the trackpad, to say, oh, we brought this thing over to iOS now that was only in OS 10. So.
Oh, I did think of one more thing that was actually event related. What about the Apple.com Twitter account spoiling it at the beginning of the keynote? How did that happen?
Oops.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. Yeah.
That was pretty.
Was that a mistimed tweet? Was that something they had set up? I don't think it was invention. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, if you blinked, you missed it. But the Apple.com has had this long dormant Twitter account that has done nothing for years, months, long time. And then they reactivated it shortly before this event. They sent out teasers, and were promoting the event. And then as soon as the event started, it started tweeting all the details about the new iPhone 7. And then several people grabbed screen grabs of it and started retweeting it, and they quickly deleted the tweets, but I don't think you can delete the retweets.
So once it's out there, it's out there.
I want to point out that Katie just said tweezers. She just merged two words that I've never heard merged before, and I absolutely love it. Tweet, a teaser, tweezer.
A tweet teaser or a teaser tweet? A tweezer.
Right. It's the most wonderful word I heard all day.
You can have that one. I'll give it to you.
There you go.
Royalties forthcoming.
we have coined a new phrase. I love it. Well, guys, thank you so much for this. We could go on and on, I'm sure, because we could dig into a lot of details. But hopefully, we've given people an overview of things that we think are important anyway, and maybe influence their decisions, yes or no. And so we may see some of you at 3 a.m. Eastern time, midnight Pacific. I don't know what time it is. It'll be for you, Don.
It's usually a reasonable time, 8 o'clock in the morning or something. So
great.
It's 3 a.m. for Chuck and I.
Yeah. But we'll see you on Twitter as we're trying to get our pre-orders in for exactly what we want. One more time around the table, just so folks can know where to find you. Katie?
I'm Katie Floyd. I'm regularly the co-host of the Mac Power Users podcast, which you can find at relay.fm/MPU, or my regular website is katiefloyd.com.
Great. And you're on Twitter as Tweezer?
Let me go register that real quick. I'm on Twitter at Katie Floyd.
Great. Thanks so much for being here, Katie.
Thanks, Chuck.
Don?
Right. Well, you can find me across at screencastonline.com, where I have my weekly video tutorials. On the App Store, look for Screencast Online Monthly Magazine, of which Katie is a valued contributor as well. And if you want to find me on Twitter, I'm on Twitter as Don McAllister. And if you want something non-tech related, check out my new website over at thenewveganoutlook.com.
Excellent, Don. Thank you. Charles?
Cryptid.com is my website. Podcast.macadmins.org is the podcast that we just had our 10th episode, yay. And I guess Jamf Software, just, if you walk in the door and ask for me, I'm sure they'll be able to track me down.
I would think so. Thanks so much, Charles. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the MacJury on Mac Voices. Again, hopefully we've given you some things to think about and maybe influenced you one direction or another. Who knows? But one way or another, we'll see you on September 9th at 3 a.m. my time to do our pre-orders. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the MacVoices blog, the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.